Amazing things happen around a table. Some of you can recall watching your young child, or perhaps another young child, learning to enjoy food at the table. You remember dumping the entire bowl of spaghetti on her head and sitting in gleeful pleasure at this fun experience as food drips into ears and streams down the face and settles onto clothing and the floor and the chair and anything else around, or smearing chocolate ice cream all over his face and hair and arms and legs and the dog and anything else that is within reach. When you could keep your humor as you watched this child in front of you, you knew that the sheer delight with food, the sheer pleasure and enjoyment, could turn into eager willingness to try wonderful culinary experiences in the future and perhaps even produce an exquisite cook in the family. As the child sits at a table of acceptance and encouragement, you watch while bit by bit, from struggling to pick up a tiny little piece of something, eventually getting a little bit of food into the mouth, the child moves on to tentative use of a spoon, and then a fork, and even a knife, and before your very eyes, the dependent child gradually is transformed into an increasingly independent, capable wonder. Amazing things happen around a table. Sometimes around a table, political leaders, military leaders, national leaders negotiate peace settlements, bringing peace to a part of the world at least for a time. At special holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, you can find families gathered at tables with food piled high, gathered around tables to laugh, tell stories, remember the ancestors. Gathered around the table to remind one another of shared history, memories that are being embellished as the years pass by, and a group's identity and mythology is being formed. Sometimes damaged relationships can be mended, individuals supported and encouraged, bonds of family and friendship strengthened and deepened. Amazing things happen around a table. Plans are made, clarified, improved, and energized, sitting and talking around a table. Children and youth gain insight and wisdom about the harsh realities of the world and the wonder and richness of life at table with the elders. Adults of all ages find new understanding, purpose, imagination, enthusiasm, energy at the table with young people. Hopes and dreams, fears and uncertainties, laughter and tears are shared around the table. Newcomers are welcomed in, acquaintances are made, friendships are formed around the table. This past Monday and Tuesday, I was at an event required of all pastors transitioning into this presbytery. Now, we all know that Presbyterians like to eat, and in a 25-hour period of time, we had 4 meals, 3 official coffee breaks with snacks, and who knows how many other unofficial gatherings there were that included food. But also in these few short hours gathered around the table, I was welcomed as a colleague, I met other colleagues, I was welcomed in, I gained useful information, and relationships were forming. Amazing things happen around a table. Of course, not everything that happens at the table is positive. Paul was displeased with what was happening at the church in Corinth as they gathered to share a meal. Greed had become part of time at the table. Those who had the most were getting the best food. Those who had the least were being left out, and the church was becoming divided. Paul weighed into the conflicts with specific instructions for behavior and attitude, trying to restore community to wholeness and health. We remember when Jesus shared the Passover meal with disciples, the last meal that he would have with them, hours before he was killed. One disciple was plotting to betray Jesus. There were questions among them about who was the betrayer going to be as they questioned and tried to pin one another down. Then an argument started. Some were jockeying for power, trying to work out which one was going to be the most important. Others gathered there basically were clueless about what was going on at this table. And yet, amazing things happen around a table. As the living Christ walked along with disciples on the road to Emmaus, the disciples were so sad, so upset, so disheartened, so caught up in the tragic events that had just taken place, how Jesus had been killed, Jesus, the one they thought was going to free Israel from the Roman Empire, and how Jesus was dead, the body was missing, rumors were spreading, some even said that Jesus was alive. As they walked along, caught up in all of this, they didn't even recognize the living Christ in their midst. But when they welcomed the living Christ into their home, sitting around a table, talking, sharing a meal, breaking bread together, in a sudden transforming moment, their eyes were opened to see, to experience, to feel, to know the living Christ, stirring their imaginations, their energy, and their love. Amazing things happen around a table. For the past couple of weeks, I've been talking about the sacrament of communion as a renewal of covenant, a time when we are reassured of God's promises to us, a time when we commit ourselves yet again to keep the promises that we have made to God and to others. We come to this table knowing that we are loved in ways that we cannot even imagine, to a depth we cannot even comprehend. Loved so profoundly that we are held close in the very heart of God. Loved in ways that touch the core of our lives, transforming our very beings, enlivening the divine within us. We come to the table loving God, seeking to follow the Jesus way, wanting to live what is right and true and pure. We come to the table seeking community, ready to live real unity, allowing all persons to be their true selves, loving sisters and brothers with compelling compassion that holds them close in the depths of our very own hearts. Sisters and brothers in this congregation, beyond our doors and around the world. Come to the table to be healed, to bridge divisions, to bring unity with justice and freedom. United together with believers from all around the world, especially on this day, World Communion Sunday, we stand together also, calling on God to bring justice to our world, the justice God has promised to all of God's children. But we don't only call on God to bring justice. We also commit ourselves to do justice. We come to the table to partner with God in bringing justice, justice in our country and throughout the world, justice in our communities, in our workplaces, in our congregations, in our homes. At this table, we become co-partners with God, working to bring justice to all of life. Participating in the sacrament of Holy Communion is not a passive activity. Come to this table, immerse yourself in the profound compassion and love of God. Partner with God to love the whole world. Stand side by side with sisters and brothers of all nations and races in genuine love and challenging community, community that needs the wonderfully rich diversity of all creation. Join forces to call on God to bring the justice God has always promised. Partner with God to seek justice, to teach justice, to live justice. For even this morning, in this time and place, Amazing things can happen around the table. Thanks be to God. Amen.